So, good.
Hello, good morning. This is Sunrise Daily. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
Well, today is World Press Freedom Day. It's 30 years or more now. And I think one of the things that perhaps might be good for some to know is the important role of the press in all of the things that we do. I remember a quote by a journalist, in 1974 says, "A world without press, if there is no press freedom, anything can happen." It's not literal. It's like, and I think we have also said it, a few times on this program that just imagine a Nigeria without press, what would happen? If I look back in the history of Nigeria, I would say, and every one of us who knows will be able to point out the critical role of the press, the Nigerian press, especially in the Third Republic, the botched Third Republic, and the dictatorship that followed it. Literally, the press was shut down. But then there is something they call guerrilla journalism. It just wouldn't go away. It was the birth of, was Razor newspaper at the time. There was Tempo magazine, and there was a number of others that were just underground. You would look for their offices and you wouldn't find it. Today, we're able to have a Fourth Republic because of that critical role. And so many other countries would point to the same thing. Yeah, as in every sector, we have those who may not be doing it the way you expect them to do it, but then that is why you have regulations. But then there is a difference between, regulation and then stifling the press, which some people are alleging. Now, you would look over everywhere and you are asking yourself so many, many critical questions about the role of the press. What do you think is the role of the press? And do you think the role is being fulfilled by the press the way it ought? Maybe you want to share a thought or two with us, on our social media platforms today.
The press is outlined there, so they're always welcome to comment anyway.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want that first Workers' Day, and you ask yourself, wow, can you really say Happy Workers' Day? That's supposed to be intention. Supposed to be the intention, but I mean, year on year in this part of the world, you see workers grappling with all sorts of things, from their welfare to several other conditions, of which the press is not immune to anyway.
And the press they're also workers.
Yeah, so you see, you look at the operating environment today, and so it's a very critical time in the history of this country. And I mean, I don't know who would disagree, given what is making the rounds at this point in time. So where there's talk about utterances here and there, regulation here and there, the much talked about social media regulation, who knows if it will raise head again. And so all of those combinations just makes you wonder, wow, the kind of operating environment we have here, beyond, those key political officers releasing statements, there's a lot more to press freedom. There has to be that culture, that environment. In some of the climes, even in African countries here, you see how those officers, how they submit themselves or make themselves available, to the public via the press.
To the public
via the press.
I think that's the critical thing right there. Okay, this year's theme, for instance, is information as a public good.
Yeah.
Now, one of the instruments that is supposed to help the press do its job. And really, that law is not just for the press. That's the Freedom of Information Act. It's not just for the press, for literally anyone watching right now to go to any government agency and say, I need this information, and be able to get it. Not once, not twice has Serap, for instance, queried the government as to why should these things be? How come we cannot access information, even though it is based on the Freedom of Information law that Nigeria promulgated, I think, in 2011 or thereabouts? So
it looks as if they were just papering over cracks. They came up with that law just to make it look as if they were complying with global best practices or international standards for the sake of it. Because I mean, how many will even say they've successfully made use of that? We've seen several judgments that authorities don't obey in courts, and you see all of those challenges exist. So it is those kind of actions that build up to how people see the authorities and then how they form the impressions, opinions, and respond to it.
Yeah.
So when they withhold information, it's not that you know, they now make it very easy for faith columnists to fill the void.
And
that's what happens.
And as well, depreciate even further the trust quotient. Because if you don't tell me what I need to know, I am open to make my own judgments based on assumptions, based on half-truths. And, people are going to, we all say, nature abhors vacuum. So if I don't get the right information, I'm okay. It's okay for me to cook it up, whether in my head or add one on one together to make whether half truth or whatever it is. And the information out there needs to be put right, and that is why the press is there. Okay, again, I'm going to ask. You may assume that people know, but let's ask you. If you think the press is doing enough in its own responsibilities, and what else you think the press should be doing, what are your thoughts about Nigerian press? Let's have it. You're wondering, what am I talking about?
No, I mean, you're always welcome. So, always welcome to that.
It's usually very important to say that, people may assume they know, people know what doctors do, they know what lawyers do, but many people, I mean, you see a lot of, feedback from the public about the press. You ought to do this, you didn't do this, you ought to do this, you didn't do this, not knowing that there are regulations, there are dictums, there are principles to getting the job done. And when it doesn't go in the particular way certain people expect, for instance, one of our hallmarks here is that of balance. And balance is very, very critical. It's a very critical fundamental in journalism, in the job of the media, in the job of the press. You hear this side, you hear the other side as well. If you do not hear both sides, people will think you are favoring one side. But then in the process of doing that, you get certain, smacks here and there simply because perhaps maybe some people do not understand why that is. Perhaps assumptions are out there. I have been on a radio program, for instance, where as soon as I was done taking a call or asking a question, I got a call and someone was trouncing me as favoring one particular side. And I just said thank you and goodbye. The next call, like the next 5 or 10 calls, the other people who were calling in were attacking the other guy for reprimanding me for the position that I took. So sometimes some of these things are out there so we all know what the balance ought to be. But then,
well, it's interpreted in different ways, really. So
absolutely,
the circumstances, if you want to interpret the balance according to the laws, you won't achieve it. You can't achieve it. If you've got political parties that are 38 or 48 parties, how you want to strike that?
Oh, well.
So
that's like how many programs in one day?
You have to.
And often we say gentlemen of the press, but then there is also the female gender there. So,
well, really?
Yes, isn't that so?
How does that work?
Well, good morning, guys, and happy International Press Freedom Day to you and to my colleagues, and now to every, shall I say, every phone-wielding citizen out there who uses his phone as a medium of reporting. I mean, everyone is welcome to the club. Everyone is welcome to the club of journalism. But I think the question is, will you play by the rules? Because journalism does have its own rules. It's very interesting that we're delving into, whether or not journalists have lived up to expectation, even as we celebrate today and mark the day. I think that largely, whatever it is you get to see in the media is reflective of the times. Just yesterday, the president also sent a message to greet journalists, to say Happy International Press Freedom Day. But he encouraged us to use our freedoms responsibly. And I know that I smiled when I heard that word responsibly. Of course, there is no freedom without responsibility. And I think that journalists already know that. I don't know if they need to be reminded on International Press Freedom Day, but if you read parts of the statement, it says the media must be sensitive to what we're going through as a country, and anything that would exacerbate the situation and further inflame passions and emotions should be avoided. The media needs to ensure that while informing, educating, entertaining, and setting agenda for public discourse, it does not encourage incendiary words and actions that could further hurt our unity in diversity. And I think that statement is is poignant, especially when you put it in context to the fact that freedom of the press, this is another statement entirely, is linked with all aspects of development in a positive way. Free press is related to higher GDP, higher human development measured by the Human Development Index, and a more equal and fair society. So if we are not quite where we are, I mean, where we would like to be in respect to this measurement of freedom and measurement of a good, fair, and equal society, maybe it's no surprise that we are where we are when it comes to press freedom. Chamberlain, you made reference to the fact that, increasingly, the operating environment makes it maybe a little unconducive for people to want to talk. And that speaks to the challenge that we face even in this context, the fact that increasingly, less and less people are willing to speak on certain issues. Some believe that there is no point speaking because it doesn't seem that there's anyone listening, so what's the point? But some others are just afraid that if they say the truth as they truly feel it, and as they see it, especially when we look at the situation we are in today, that, perhaps their freedoms could become abridged. And I think that, we need to inquire even further. What could be responsible for that? Why are we where we are? Is it because the press has done its work, or we haven't done our work well, or do we feel inhibited? These are questions that we need to ask today. Gentlemen.
Important components there, because, over time we've heard people who've been on the program and afterwards they tell us how they were, questioned by security agents and agencies. So those things exist. But another story for another day. So, take a look at what some of the dailies are reflecting in this interesting times of ours.
You mean the press?
Yeah, the press. The press. Well, have they ever gone on strike?
Oh, may that day never come.
Oh, well. The same way doctor said, may that day never come, but circumstances force them. Labor, is it that they like going on strike? They always tell you it's a last resort.
Let's just not go there.
So
let's just not go there.
But the authorities should make sure they do what they have to do, or they need to do, or they should do. Look at the Vanguard, for instance. Attacks on our offices, threat to 2023 polls, INEC. Much as nobody wants to see this, we hope that the authorities get a lead on this one. But we've seen previous attacks on INEC offices, worse than this one. Do you remember when they rammed a truck into INEC headquarters, laden with petroleum product, wanting to, explode the entire scenario and stop the general elections at the time? But he went on. So, well, look at the riders. Boko Haram kills army officer, seizes 3 gun trucks after invading military base in Borno. Gunmen kill Kogi commissioner, abducts local government chairman. Ebonyi police station attacked, 1 killed, another injured. Abducted Plateau students rescued 3 days after kidnap. Nigeria is drifting. Live up to your responsibility. JNI tells FG. APC taunts PDP over connivance with terrorists as investigations ongoing to nail sponsors. So, the big lead, which reflects the times these days. And then about this one in the Southeast. Tension in Southeast, Ohaneze invites Masob, ESN, others for peace talks. As IPOB orders sit at home, bans church services on May 30. Seek advice from experts. Iregu. I never said IPOB was responsible for killings in Southeast Modo. So, there you go. It's part of what we're talking about, freedom of movement association and things like that. So we should be careful what we ask or what we wish. Take a look at what's on the back page now. Osimhen scores, suffers head injury. Yeah, that's what you see on the back page. Don't worry, I'll let you see Mr. and Mrs. today. It's a holiday, so I expect that you have a little time on your hands. So you could check your Mr. and Mrs. afterwards. That's Vanguard this morning.
I should be protesting. This is.
May that day never come. Remember? The press and protest?
Not strike.
Well, maybe that one thing leads to the other. You never know.
The Nigerian Tribune leads with this one, not very pleasant, but that's what we have. Nigeria owes China $3.7 billion. That's according to the Debt Management Office. Find the story on page 7.
We heard the emphasis.
Wow. Well, so many other stories, every single one almost, right there calling for attention, but I'll ask you to do the picking. Okay.
Daily Trust. Well, indeed, it's his Daily Trust, gentlemen of the press. Take a look at this. Yes, you can see it. Alleged threats. Police deploy horses, motorcycles for intelligence gathering in FCT. Well, say Abuja not under terrorist attack. Intercept 753 ammunition in Ebonyi. Local government chair still missing as gunmen kill Kogi commissioner. Very sad. 345 ballot boxes, others set ablaze in Akwa Ibom. That's on the front page of Daily Trust. So for those who have been getting afraid, I guess this headline is meant to reassure residents of the FCT. Police deploy horses, motorcycles for intelligence gathering in FCT. Don't forget that this has got a context. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, we heard from the governor of Niger State that they had taken over, Boko Haram had taken over a local government, well, almost an entire local government in Niger State. And he said, look, this is just about 2 hours away from the Federal Capital Territory. So, well, police are just they're not sitting down and waiting for them to come. They have decided to deploy horses, motorcycles for intelligence gathering. So, page 5 will give you all of the details. Fresh strike looms in varsities as federal government fails to meet April deadline. That's also there. Buhari to media, use your freedom responsibly. That's also on the front page as well. And they have a picture of the burnt INEC office in Akwa Ibom State. Did anyone else notice that this burnt office was like in a forest somewhere? I don't know. You might want to take a look at the picture. I don't know what message that conveys, but of course, this is no good. Just burning an INEC office. I don't know what's going on. Ex-leaders, clerics conniving with external forces against Nigeria. That's according to the DSS. Yes, they also sent out a warning message yesterday. I don't know who it's targeted at, but you might want to flip to page 6 to see details. A number of other stories at the bottom there. Mixed reactions as 38 aspirants fail Kaduna APC exams. Okay? That's an innovation. You might want to check out page 27 for the details. Gentlemen.
Wow. Well, take a look at The Guardian next. Uncertainty as stiffer foreign travel protocols begin today. Stakeholders query travel ban from India, Brazil, Turkey over COVID-19 spike. Airfares face, I'll go again. Airlines face $3,500 fine per defaulting passenger. Wow. Decision hasty, not based on data, says Tomori. Experts rally government to rapid testings at Lagos, Abuja airport. We're still grappling with this. Wow. Oof, there you go. And then you see that BBC documentary exposes pension corruption in Cross River. So that you also see right there. That's the Guardian today.
Nigerian News Direct seem to be interested in labor matters with this lead headline. Minimum wage. FG threatens to sue errant state governments. How? Stories on page 3. Find out the details on the inside. FG offers 5 NIPP power stations for sale. Is that a relief in any way? The details are on the inside pages and a few other stories you'll find interesting right there. Nigeria records $8.41 billion investments in Q1 2021. That's Nigeria Investment Promotion Council. Find the details on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. Mark.
Check out Abuja Inquirer and what you find on the front page. Abuja not under siege, that's according to the police. Buhari urges media against inflammatory reports. That's also on the front page as well. You have a number of other stories at the bottom. Area councils get 444 million naira increase in March allocation. Land Use Act, FCTA vows to go after defaulters. Insecurity slow down construction of schools. That's according to UBEC. And you might want to see a number of other stories. Abuja Park and Pay, hitches, wrangling, stall, takeoff. Well, you might want to see details on page 3 of the paper. Let's leave it there for the Abuja Inquirer.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what do we have? Daily Independent? We should, right? Okay, so the big lead here: banks, NPLs escalate amid growth in gross loans to 20.48 trillion naira. Then you see this COVID-19 surge. FG bans travelers from Brazil, Turkey, India, reduces PCR tests to 72 hours. So there you go.
The figures and videos you see from India is quite scary.
Yeah, and then you just wonder if considering the measures, vaccines, they distribute vaccines to, Africa, but, benefiting from that as well. And then those kind of cases, wow, you just hope that they just get a lead on that and sort that out.
Absolutely. Kaduna LG polls, that's the lead of the Blueprint newspaper today. Anxiety as APC disqualifies Algon chair, 37 others after tests. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what does that mean, really. 75 of 115 pass aptitude, 2 disqualified over anti-party activities. It's no longer business as usual, APC chair says. Fire me, others inciting Nigerians against party. Ascribed to Okechukwu, the story is on page 6. And you're wondering, what does this mean? Again, all the stories you'll find on the inside pages, page 6 to be precise. And right under the nameplate, along the line there, you see food scarcity, unemployment persists as banking loan hits 20.5 trillion naira.
Who's taking it?
The details are on page 34. That's what I would say, and so many others. Of course, the killing of the Kogi pension commissioner is also there on the front page of the paper this morning. Markwe.
Well, we still have leadership, and look at this one. Scarcity of forex persists as CBN's Naira for dollar policy closes. It's a page 4 read for you. Reevaluate your policy, experts tell Apex Bank. That's also on the front page of the paper. You might want to see there some big announcement coming. GT Bank set to announce Agbaje's successor as banks axe dangles on directors, general managers. It's a page 4 read. Well, that should interest you because just last week we saw that First Bank was about to announce their own new successor, and then we saw the CBN come out to say no, we fire every chairman and and even the directors as well, and then appoint or retain the old MD. So you might want to see details of the story on page 4. They have a number of other stories at the bottom there, but let's leave it there for leadership newspapers.
Well, don't forget Daily Trust, Daily Times, which reads power firms for sale, consumers to pay higher tariffs from July. And then you see previous, I think it was a couple of days ago, where the FG says, well, they will not support any major tariff increase. And then the big question is, but the law is still there. What are they going to do about that? Minor review after 6 months, major review after 5 years. Wow, you just wonder. So there you go. That is it. We'll look at some of the dailies here today. This World Press Freedom Day. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.
The usual fanfare which characterizes the International Workers' Day returns after it was dropped in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Labor unions across the country have gathered at the Eagle Square, Abuja, to reflect on the COVID-19 pandemic, social and economic crisis, as well as challenges for decent jobs and people's welfare.
We need an alternative policy option. In light of COVID-19 pandemic, we have suggested several alternative economic policies to concretely grow the economy, retain existing jobs, and create demand for fresh employment.
The labor unions are concerned about the mass sacking of workers in Kaduna State and the bill to transfer the minimum wage from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list.
We have already declared that there will be a 5 days withdrawal of services. All services in public and private services in Kaduna. Comrades, as all of us could recall, there have been attempts by a section of the ruling class to try to kill the national minimum wage by removing it from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list. And let us also continue to sound a note of warning that any day that this law is considered by any of the chambers and also by any of our political elites, Nigerian workers are going to withdraw their services.
The Minister of Labour, who is representing President Muhammadu Buhari, aligns with Labour on the matter and goes further to assure pensioners of their pay.
So as Minister of Labour, we identify with you and we'll go all the way with you to make sure that the issue of national minimum wage is still retained in the country's exclusive legislative list. All pensioners will get their pay from May and get arrears starting from 18th of April 2019.
Speaking to journalists on the site, former NLC President Adams Oshomole, having been a governor for 8 years, does not believe that some states are unable to pay the new minimum wage.
A governor that buys the Toyota Land Cruiser, when they buy those vehicles, do they tell the employer, the marketer, sell according to the ability of my state? You cannot have a National Assembly that takes so much every day, every week, every month, and on that floor of the National Assembly, somebody is questioning why a Nigerian worker should earn $60 for 30 days, which is less than about $2 a day.
The International Workers' Day draws attention to the plight of workers and the need to pay attention to this group of people who contribute immensely to the economy of the nation. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Well, yes, we're talking about not minimum wage, but Labor Day in general. May Day was the 1st of May on Saturday, and well, we're having our own discussion this morning about it. Should we say, I think it's in order to say Happy Workers' Day, because it's the reason we have a public holiday in Nigeria today, Workers' Day, and I think every worker deserves their rest. So please, if you're at home, grab a cup of coffee and find out from who we have this morning, no less than Ayuba Waba, who is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and once again, Happy Workers' Day.
Thank you very much. I mean, I don't know why I'm particularly grateful for that greeting this morning, but I think that every worker deserves to be greeted at the minimum. And just on Saturday, well, you didn't wait for the public holiday to celebrate. All workers, at least those members of your union, were at the Eagle Square on Saturday to celebrate and to also press home their demands, their expectations for workers. You talked about the minimum wage. It is still a big bone of contention, what workers will take home at the end of the day. Why is this such an important issue for you?
Well, thank you very much. First is that the May Day is about celebrating the Nigerian worker, his resilience, his resourcefulness, the wealth that he creates, and yet few feast on it. So it's about us celebrating ourselves despite the difficulty. and despite the challenges that workers are passing through. So we are not celebrating anybody, we are celebrating ourselves. And with the challenge of COVID-19, you know that we had to reduce the number to make sure that the protocol of the COVID-19 is observed. If not, I think workers will have trooped out in their millions, but we have to respect the protocol. The issue of the minimum wage, particularly in Nigeria, with this crop of political elites, have been a very thorny issue. Elsewhere around the world, workers are celebrated. Workers earn a living from creating the wealth. Just a few days ago, at the eve of the May Day, you recall, President Biden, despite the difficulty, approved the minimum wage to be reviewed from $7.25 per hour to $15. But here we are in Nigeria. Some of our political elites are saying that a worker does not deserve 30,000 naira. Some of their allowances, newspaper allowance alone, is more than 100,000 naira per month. This is the injustice. It's a class injustice. Some of them work less than 40 hours per week. Yet we have workers that put in their best. Some have even paid the supreme price, fighting COVID-19 to protect all of us. But yet, in some states, they were the first people, crop of people, that their salary had been cut. They are sacked at will. That is why our country may not know peace, except there is social justice. And the foundation of labor globally, after the First World War, that is the Philadelphia Declaration, is that there cannot be peace without social justice. And therefore, we will try to insist that the worker is not a slave. Even artisans, even daily pay laborers, you know, you negotiate with them. You don't impose a pay on them, you negotiate. And that is the concept of the minimum wage globally. We negotiated the 30,000 naira. 6 governors were represented, representing each geopolitical zone. There was a public hearing in all the geopolitical zone. And you recall, most of them said, well, once federal government implement, we will implement. But here we are. Today, more than 1/3 of the states are not paying. Some actually implemented only for level 1 to 6. So it's not also about lack of resources. It's about whether they are committed to workers' welfare. If not, how can a state like River be discussing minimum wage up till now? So this is the real issue. And you see, even the minimum wage, those governors that are good, they are not in the same category. They are those that are extremely good. And you see them celebrating with their workers. The workers are happy. But some run away. Even when it is a global day to celebrate workers, some run away. Because they have nothing to tell their workers, nothing to tell their pensioners. So they run away. This is the situation we are in. And that is why we are insisting. We are going to confront the issue of the minimum wage in 2 fronts. In fact, the law provides very clearly, because the law that was signed into law in 2019, the Minimum Wage Act, provided for enforcement, including payment of arrears and also payment of interest commensurate to the prevailing interest rate in a commercial bank. Particularly Section 13 of that law provided for that. We are going to enforce that. We will test the law. But secondly, is also that we are going to use the workers' power. We have already declared. Workers in those states should withdraw their services. They should withdraw. We are not slaves. They have families to take care of.
In which state?
A bag of rice today
yes.
is 30,000 naira. A bag of rice. If you have a family size, which is about 8, the husband, the wife, 4 children, and possibly your parents, is 8. That is the standard. In 1 month, you are sure that you cannot only be eating rice. You also need to pay rent. So when you look at the cost of living index, it's clearly that it's not something that can sustain a worker. Even daily pay now is 2,000 naira per day. And when you put that together, it's about 60,000 naira. But yet, in a structured economy like Nigeria, we are in a very sorry situation. So the situation continues to degenerate. In fact, this crop of politicians
yes.
don't celebrate workers. You remembered the first minimum wage in 1981 by Shagari was more than $125. Today it's less than $60 because of the dwindling fortune of our economy. So this is where we are. Instead of even appreciating and celebrating workers and to pay workers, this crop of politicians those that are not paying certainly are not people that mean well for Nigeria and even mean well for our system.
You know, it is sad that we are, constantly on the issue of minimum wage, and even after it has been signed into law, we're still here. But a number of people will say, in fairness, that, to listen to the other side of the coin, they say it's about ability to pay, whether or not the state can pay, considering the fact that at some point it would seem that there are just a lot of people taken into the civil service, and then when you look at their recurrent versus capital expenditure ratio, they're spending a lot on paying salaries, and then when you look at the fraction of those who are taking a humongous part of their budget now, they say workers account for just a small fraction of the state. Only recently we saw a statement from a state that's about to let go of workers in their own state, saying that this is the situation and that they have to be able to ensure that the resources go round to the rest of the state. How is Labour taking these arguments?
The issue of ability to pay was already considered before agreeing on 30,000. As I said to you, 6 governors were represented on the committee. There was a public hearing. In fact, some states send proposal higher than 30,000. Some send 42,000. States.
Do you think that COVID has anything to do with it?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It's just about priority. The priority of most of them is, how do I award White Elephant project and get my feedback? Workers' pay is something that you know for sure that it goes to a worker. But, in our own climb, people have heaped on the issue of ability to pay. But that issue has been addressed. Everybody agreed on the negotiation table. Initially our demand was 66,000 naira, 66,500. There was research that was carried out. National Bureau of Statistics, Central Bank of Nigeria, National Productive Center, all of them carried out a research. So there is an empirical data that was similar to what NLC did to say that, well, with the cost of living index, what will be required now to actually even bring about the value of 18,000 naira as far back as 2011, so not even to have an increase, no, is to look at the inflation rate and try to bring the 18,000 to current realities. What was agreed was then the 30,000. It was actually a negotiated amount between the employers in the private sector and various employers in the public sector. So the issue of ability to pay has been addressed. It's just about the mindset of few, and why are some of them paying? Those with small resources, Jigawa for instance, today is one of the best governors. I can say that without missing word. He pays pensioners. The all defined benefit is funded. You retire today, you earn your gratuity, you earn your pension. At a time he said, even if there is no federation account for 6 months, I will be able to pay salary. How can that happen? Look at the revenue table and even the resources in time of RGR. When you compare Kaduna and Jigawa, which one receive money more? The same governor that is laying people said that he has generated IGR from 13 billion in 2015 to now more than 50 billion. Yet, he's talking of laying off workers. So where is the priority? I don't want us to put everybody in the same basket. We have very good governors that are actually doing well. Where they have difficulty, they will put the facts on the table and invite their workers. That's what the law said. Collective bargaining and social dialogue is central to the issue of managing labor. Those people will bring those issues, including private employers.
Some people will say, though, that Jigawa is a pretty young state. It was one of the last states to be created. And, say a state like Kaduna, for instance, has been on, has been there for a while. Let
me tell you the fact. Yeah. If you look at the workforce of Kaduna and Jigawa have more workforce. It's a reality. Look at it.
They do?
Yes. And look at the figure that he sacked in 2016. About 29,000 workers. None have been paid. So our political elites violate our laws with impunity. The law made it very explicit. Before you declare redundancy, Section 40 of the Labour Act must be respected. 1, you must inform the union or the representative of the worker the reason and scope of redundancy. That was not done. 2, that even when you are carrying out redundancy, item B on section 20 said is last to come into the service, that will be the first to go. And the third item is that outside payment of his benefit, that there must be a redundancy package. You remember when Obasanjo carried out the public service reform? He did not only pay their, as you are collecting your sack letter or your redundancy letter, you are also collecting your check. And he added 10% as redundancy benefit. Not only that, there was a training. Because before you are given that money, in fact, there was an incubation period. Before you are issued your letter, you are trained on whatever trade you want to do. And that was actually funded by the federal government. This is in conformity with the provision of section 20 of that law. But here we are, with impunity. Somebody has served for 30 years, with a family, with children in school. You issue him letter, I've disengaged you. Your benefit will be paid later. The ones you did earlier, you didn't pay them. You didn't pay the redundancy, you didn't respect the law. And you expect labor to keep quiet? Are we in a banana republic? That we cannot respect our laws, which is sacrosanct? A law that pertains to human beings? In another hand, you then increase school fees in all institutions with over 500%. I've read the statement of ASU. I've read the statement of the student union government. They say 70% of the students of Kaduna State University are indigenous. And they posited that these 70% are children of the poor, children of the workers, children of peasant traders, and that they will soon be out of school. In fact, I have a conversation with a woman. She fries akara in Kau. Many people know her. She has her only child in the university. She was crying to me that, this thing, I can't pay again. The fee was 26,000. I struggled to pay. Now I can't pay. My only child will be out of school. What are we trying to do? Push out the children of the poor out of school. Because their children are outside the country studying. They have the best medical facility. We have destroyed public health facilities. We have destroyed public schools. Now we have turned to those children of the poor that are in school who want to sack them. This is the issue. How do we expect labor to keep quiet on such issues? All people of conscience, all political leaders must speak truth to power so that we can have peace and stability. How do you expect there will be peace in Kaduna? That's why the insecurity issue is escalating. When the children of the poor are out of school, the rich cannot also sleep with their eyes closed. That's the reality. Hitherto, there is no kidnapping in Kaduna, I can say so.
Well, I don't know if it's any comfort, because yesterday we also had the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige. He's represented the president a number of times now at your event. And he was on a program yesterday, a sister program yesterday, where he said that they're going to take up the issue of minimum wage more seriously. Excuse me, I don't know if we can get that track so you can listen to him firsthand. But, you know, he said that they're now going to go after those, and I don't think he was just talking about government institutions, because largely it would seem that you have focused on government institutions, and perhaps rightly so too, because I mean they ought to show the way, and a number of people argue that if they are not, you know, living up to expectations, you know, how do they expect the private entities which operate within their domain to be able to do it? But let's quickly listen to that track of Dr. Chris Ngige talking about going after people who are not, or entities are not paying the minimum wage.
They're mixing apple and oranges. This minimum wage is different from a CBA, collective bargaining agreement. This is a national law that says what you pay to the lowest paid employee, worker in your establishment. State governments are employers. Private sector people, UAC, banks, and the rest of them all are private employers. All of them are in this basket. They are caught in the web of this law until repealed. So for today, any state government or employer that goes and be negotiating minimum wage, like some of them are doing with their unions, they are running foul of the law.
Well, that's what he said yesterday, but he also added the fact that they're going to go after them. Is that any comfort to you? Because some people will say 2 years and counting, shouldn't they have gone after them by now?
Yeah, by the provision of the law, the Federal Ministry of Labour can enforce it. Labor unions can enforce it. There is a clear provision, Section 13, that said that we can enforce it also through the legal process. And the employer shall pay, including interest, where he has not implemented, because it's a law. So that is another angle. But the other angle, because our people also violate even court judgments. So the other angle is why we said we are going to use the workers' power to also engage the issue now holistically, because the economic situation, the very bad economic situation, is biting very hard on workers. And many of them cannot take care of their families. Don't also forget that when we are discussing this issue of minimum wage, we must also situate it alongside what has happened just of recent. You remember states were given bailout. They collected Paris Club reform. They collected budget support. They collected 2 billion CBN support for agriculture. You remember we raised the issue of accountability, transparency. And you remember there was a report by the anti-graft agencies where clearly it stated that some states helped themselves. In fact, there was a state that the day the money came in, 500 million was removed and put into one account of just somebody that was a political appointee. This is how we have degenerated to this level. So essentially it's not about resources, it's priority, and I keep saying so, that is about priority. And therefore we must situate all these arguments within this context. Are you saying, is any right-thinking Nigeria saying that 30,000 is too much for a Nigerian worker? How much are they earning? When the minimum wage was reviewed in 2011 to 18,000 naira, the take-home pay of political office holder, that is the legitimate one, by Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, was reviewed by over 800%. That is still the scenario we have. You even have the illegitimate ones, allowances that were created, particularly by those that are proponents of trying to now propose a bill to remove the minimum wage from the exclusive list. Those are in fact, it's their salary and allowances that is supposed to be deregulated, because it's not on the basis of their ability to pay now. Governors are earning, is it on the political office holder from councillor to the highest office in the land? They are not earning their pay on the basis of ability to pay. Yes, when it comes to worker, you now say ability to pay. And government, as you said, must lead for other employers of labor to actually follow. Because government must look at itself as a sovereign that is representing the people. And don't forget, the primary purpose of any government, which our governors need to know, is security and welfare of the people. Welfare of workers inclusive. When you mention that workers are a tiny minority, just take even the current challenge of COVID-19. Is it not the frontline workers that are saving the world? Are we the only country in the world that have workers that are servicing the entire population? How can you say our armed forces that are being killed on a daily basis, responding to security issues, you say they are a tiny minority? How can you say our doctors, our nurses, our utility service providers are a tiny minority? That is the type of thinking. Then how many politicians do we have? And how much are they consuming? Do you know how much politicians are consuming? If you put this side by side, what the workers are even earning is legitimate. What they are consuming, the political class, Commonwealth salary, is illegitimate. Comrade, let's quickly flip this to Lagos now. I hear my colleagues have a question or two for you. Gentlemen.
Well, very quick one, Comrade. It's actually quite shocking, because if you do the math of 30,000 naira, it comes to something less than 200 naira an hour, and about 1,500 naira or less for an 8-hour a day. So the questions you raised about the one state government that's been laying off workers, question one we want to ask is that what then is Labour planning to do? Is there a protest in mind? Is there some picketing, in the works?
Yes, thank you very much. If you could recall, our highest organ, the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Labour Congress, composing of all president and general secretaries of our 49 affiliate unions, composing of all our state councils, our civil society allies. We have decided that there will be a 5-day withdrawal of services, total withdrawal of services in Kaduna State. That date will be pronounced by the NAC, and where there is no reversal of this policy, because it's akin to modern day slavery, where a worker is disengaged as a slave, even after working for 30 years. The second addendum to that is that after the first 5 days, if there is no remorse, because one, the governor belonged to a party, two, he also have colleagues, three, we have also institutions in place that where some of those decisions will affect the security and life of people, he ought to have been called to order. And where nothing has happened, after those first steps, we are going to do a total withdrawal of services, because we believe that injury to one is injury to all. And as we said, he is not alone in this battle. He's only championing a cause. You remembered the report of the so-called restructuring, which he championed and claimed that it was a document of his party. Many of them have disclaimed that document to say it's the idea of one person, and that they have a perspective that actually reflects what needed to be done. So basically, I think this is these are the steps that Labour will be taking, because we'll deploy the workers' power to make sure that the workers in Kaduna are also protected and our laws respected, because one is about respecting the provisions of our law. If a governor that have sworn and to uphold the provision of the constitution of our country will impunity violate the provision of Section 20 of the Labour Act, then I don't think you expect workers to do less. So this is how far we have programmed our engagement on this very important issue.
Well, we definitely will keep up with, what goes on with Labour, and not just Kaduna State now, but all the other states, because we also know that a number of states are owing their essential workers' salaries. We've heard some of them owing doctors' salaries, owing lecturers' salaries. I don't know what Labour is going to do in those states, and how many more states you're going to issue an order for. Do you have an idea quickly?
Yes, as I said, there have been some sectorial challenges. And those sectoral challenges have also led to the withdrawal of services. You recall just of recent, the doctors withdrew their services. All the unions in academic institutions withdrew their services. And as we speak, JUSUN, the Judicial Staff Union, are on strike. The Parliamentary Staff Union are on strike. This is not the type of situation that we should continue to just lament. I thought we should be able to look at how to address it holistically. Yeah, I was actually hoping to get more. This has led to a lot of disruption, which is also affecting Nigerians. Nigerians now that want to access justice because of inaction of also the governors, the courts are being shut. And basically, these are straightforward issue. It's a constitutional issue. Well, comrade, I was actually hoping that you shed more light on which other states you intend to take action on. But sadly, we're out of time now. I believe that maybe I'll get that information from you after now. We'll be looking to see what eventually happens with Labour and state governors. We're hoping that the state governors will not wait until they are harassed, until they do what they ought to do by their workers in the state. But we have to say thank you for always honoring our invitation to the studio. Comrade Ayuba Waba is the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Sunrise Daily will continue in a bit. Please stay with us.
Security checks at the entrance into the National Assembly are more intense than normal, causing long queues into the premises. Unconfirmed reports say there is an alleged security threat on the Assembly, which necessitates this level of search of vehicles. Inside one of the hearing rooms in the National Assembly, the Senate Committee on Army is holding a meeting to discuss the release of funds to the military to fight terrorism. The chairman of the committee is unhappy at the absence of the Minister of Finance, who was invited to attend this meeting.
If the minister is in town and she refuses to honor this invitation, honestly, or neglect this invitation, honestly, we are not going to take it kindly. While in her state, in Kaduna, today, more than 50 people are still in the hands of captives. If to say her child or her brother or somebody related is among those that are there, I'm sure she will be here.
Nevertheless, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance tries to fill in for the minister, detailing some releases to the military. He explains that 75 billion naira was appropriated and released in 2019. But the committee chairman is not satisfied with his explanation.
Number 4 there, 2020, 75 billion was appropriated. 74.999, only I think 2 naira was. So almost 100% was released. The current year, 100 billion has been appropriated. We have released 19.7 for the first quarter. Just yesterday, we have released 19.95.
Here is a letter indicating that from the time of the introduction of Operation Lafia Dole, they have a shortfall outstanding of 50 billion. When they attacked Minok, the problem they had there was because they didn't have the communication, they didn't have the cover, they didn't have, in fact, what happened really was that they ran out of ammunition. When they exhausted their ammunition, they had to take cover, they ran away, and they killed 30 of them.
They may require certain funds, but as far as appropriation is concerned, we have released what has been appropriated to them.
Committee members did not go much further with the permanent secretary, as they insist that the finance minister must appear before them next Tuesday, May 4th, to give account of releases to the military for Operation Lafia Dole and the war on terrorism.
The capital for
Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
Was only 19.6.
Well, security continues to be on the front burner. It's almost at the front and center of everything you look at these days. When you even talk about International Press Freedom Day, the greeting also centered around security and how we need to be careful at this time. Well, I guess we have people in our studios this morning who have been more than careful, but have also said things as they truly are, and are also feeling the pinch in their different constituencies as the problem of insecurity continues to bite. And that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. We have with us Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi, who is the chairman, Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs, is a member of the APC. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much.
We also have Honorable Yakubu Barde, who is the former minority whip, a member of the PDP. Honorable, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, the National Assembly has not been quiet on this issue of security. Over and over again, it would seem that you've had cause to weigh in on the matter, and oftentimes the verdict is very worrisome. Even for you, on more than one occasion, you have been documented to have said things like, let us go to the villa and bring the problems to the president. Perhaps he doesn't understand the magnitude of what it is that we're and this let me say, the video which I particularly remember was at least 2 years ago in the 8th Assembly. The Senate was worried enough to organize a conference to which they invited the executive to rub minds on the matter. Yet we're in the 9th Assembly now, and we're still talking about the same problems of insecurity. I think it was just last week or 2 weeks ago when a colleague of yours was said to have cried on the floor of the National Assembly. Are we really making progress with finding solutions to the problems bedeviling us?
Thank you very much for having me. This is a very, very serious problem that the country is facing, the issue of security. And I think the problem is very self-evident. Clearly, the country has lost the monopoly of legitimate use of violence. And it has lost this to non-state actors who are taking over spaces in various sectors of the country. What started in Maiduguri as a small cell of disgruntled, unhappy young people have mutated into a national, sub-regional problem that has become hydra-headed, multidimensional monster. especially in Nigeria, where a local problem in the Northeast is now nationwide, and there's no part of this country and no state in this country has not been part of this unfortunate incident. And this is why, in my own view, Nigeria needs to regain its confidence and the necessity for consultation and bringing people on board. This is no longer a partisan issue. It's beyond parties. It's a national concern, and every concerned Nigeria must be given an opportunity to participate in the process of finding solutions. Because oftentimes, we often say that government should do this, government should do this, but democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So government, democracy is a partnership between government and the people. When government has issues, it runs to the people. And my advocacy simply is, we need more heads around the table. The presidency should engage more with other stakeholders in this enterprise called Nigeria. We have former presidents. Many of them have been quiet. A few of them have been outspoken. We have traditional rulers. We have faith-based leaders of this country. We have private sector that is severely affected. Production has nosedived. The economy has taken a hit. Other West African countries are beginning to take business from Nigeria. Why? Because Nigeria does no longer provide the enabling environment for big businesses to thrive. Small businesses have run out of breath. Farmers have abandoned the field. As a matter of fact, if care is not taken, we are approaching a situation of severe food shortage, because the little production we've been able to do over the years, which ab initio and benefit of hindsight is insufficient, it's been taken away from us. So we have a big problem. I believe that this government, our government, and I'm a member of the party, a supporter of the government, a sympathizer to this government. But beyond all of this emotional, sentimental attachment to our party, to our government, there is a bigger responsibility of rescuing Nigeria from what appears to be endemic problems within the country itself. Heavy human security challenges, poverty, lack of jobs, youth unemployment, the absence of hope for the younger generation. They cannot navigate their future with any degree of certainty that this is what is going to happen to me in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years. So when people are in that state of despair, you expect worse behavior. So we need to come together at this point in time, and I believe the president has a responsibility to provide the leadership for consultation, for sending the signals of hope and a better future for all Nigerians.
Indeed, you have made reference to having more heads around the table. The question is, where is the table located, and who is doing the invitation to this table to find solutions? Does such a table exist, is the question.
This country has a leader, and the leader is in the person of the president. And we are saying to him, okay, because the challenge of national leadership sometimes can be overwhelming, that you find yourself needing to be reminded of certain things, not because you don't want to do, but because you're simply overwhelmed. And the advocacy now is that the president should rise to the occasion. It is not a thing of shame for a leader to call for help. As a matter of fact, it's statesmanly, it's astuteness, it's a sign of advanced form of patriotism that says, what I cannot do, I will seek help to be able to do it. What's the job of a leader? Is to coordinate resources, capacity, bring them on board. The traffic to the villa should be faster, quicker. The doors should be more open. You should be seeing layers of people coming in and out to offer solutions to help the nation. That is what we want our president to do, and that is what I advocate.
Well, you have been at this advocacy for a while. The question is, has it yielded fruit?
I believe there is no danger in repetition. Okay? until the message is received, appreciated. For example, the Chief of Staff to the President of the Federal Republic is an international scholar in international diplomacy. The Savannah platform that he ran before he became a Chief of Staff had a program on international terrorism and security. He's a good advisor to the President. And we believe that he should use that proximity to Mr. President to campaign for the necessity for these steps to be taken. It's never too late. It's not too late to start. Mind you, Mokwe, it's not too late to start. The important thing is starting and starting now. How many times do we in the National Assembly have to rise for 1 minute of silence in memory of the dead, people who don't want to die? They don't need our memories of them. They want to live. All they ask for is security, protection, ability to go out and do their work. And that is what our government exists for. And I believe this problem is surmountable. It can be solved, but there is need for more heads to join with the government to solve this problem.
You know, Honorable Yakubu Barde, let me come to you. When Honorable Senator Adetumbi talked about young people and despondency and not being able to plan their future, you know such young people. I mean, your constituency recently suffered some loss. And I think that loss was also the loss of the entire country because, I mean, the fact that they come from Kaduna, went to school in Kaduna, they could have been solving problems for the entire country. And so it is our communal loss as a people. But nonetheless, you feel it because you feel it even more, let me put it that way, because if some of the students are still missing, and so the problem sits right at your doorstep in your constituency. I don't know what your thoughts are with regards to finding solutions. The House of Representatives, which you're a member of, has asked the president to declare a state of emergency in security. But beyond that, is there anything more that you think that members can do, or, I don't know, perhaps even government can do?
Yeah, thank you, Mokwe. And let me say, it's a rare privilege to reach out to many Nigerians on this platform. And I want to first send my condolences to the families of many people that have lost their lives, especially the people in my constituency and the military circle in general. Now, it's very unfortunate what has been happening. As the distinguished senator said, it has made the youth unable to know what even tomorrow holds for them. And you see, that is a situation of hopelessness. Yes, the government, I'm part of the government. In any forum, I used to admit that we have failed Nigerians, I inclusive. It's not about partisanship. But the issue is, people will say, when you are a member of the House of Senate, of the Senate or House of Rep, what did you do? That's the question our youth will ask us. Now, like you said, we've said Mr. President should declare a state of emergency in the security, in terms of the security of the country. But sometimes I look at words not much by actions. And whatever code name you want to give it, to me, does not matter. But what we want to see is result. Result. The question I keep on asking is, when we came to be in this very government today, our promise to Nigerians was that we'll make life better for them. In terms of security, they will be able to go about their businesses, they will be able to go to their farms, they should be able to go to schools. They should be able to pursue their daily legitimate needs. But I am heart bleeding today because that is not what my people are getting. In the entire constituency where I represent, Chikun and Kajuru, as you rightly said, people are not able to go to school again. A lot of people are afraid. Most private schools, because they cannot provide security for themselves, have to close down. Now, you see, that deepens the hopelessness of the youth. Because if somebody cannot go to school, what does the future hold for him in this country if you are not able to go to school, acquire knowledge, so that it will enhance your ability to live in this modern society. Now, when you said what will the House of Reps do, I go back to the issue that of recent, we asked a committee of the House to find out what the monies we appropriated to the military was done with. And to the shame of Nigerians, the Chief of Army Staff came and told them that they should call those people who were there, as if governance is not continuum. He is holding the office. The House of Rep members were not asking him as a person, but we were asking the Chief of Army Staff of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's an office. And you saw the drama that took place. Is it not a shame that this is somebody, Chief of Army Staff, who will betrust the military into his hands, and he's telling you that he has no record, that the House of Rep members should call those that were there, that he wasn't there? Was the office not existing? The office is not the person. The people go and people come, but there must be record in the office. Now, for me, that was a setback, because we were trying to find out, was this money really used? If it was used, why are results not being achieved? I think that's a step forward. You don't just go, okay, after that encounter, the same Chief of Army Staff went to the Senate committee and he was asking for money. When you were asked by members, give us a record of the procurement of military hardwares, and you told them that they should call the people that were there. For me, that's a sign of failure. And it's very disheartening that we have such a person as the Chief of Army Staff. It doesn't make sense. That as it may. That is the House as parliamentarian. We do what we call oversight function. And part of it is to make sure that these things that the money was appropriate for are used for it. Now, the next question is this. I'm not a military expert, but the next question is, even if we find out what these monies were used for, I think the time has come in this country where we take the fight to the bandits, not being reactionary. Because what is happening today is, most of the times, it's reactionary. When the government, when the military tells you that, oh, they'll be patrolling, at the end of the day, okay, I just give an example. In that road between Kaduna and Abuja, there is this female military van. 3 of them, they used to patrol that area. The question I want to ask, when that kidnap was taking place in Greenfield University, was there no communication channel to tell these people, because they live in Goningora, in Kakao axis there, and for you to drive from that Guningora to Greenfield University with a very good vehicle, it will take you less than 10 minutes. So what happens? Is there no communication between the security that were in Greenfield University with the army formation who were on the road? You see, a lot of things have been happening, and I keep on asking, are we really serious and sincere in fighting this fight? Okay, tell me today, before, when I was growing up, every police van has a dedicated channel where they communicate with the DPOs. If something is happening here, the next station will be communicated. I mean, they will deploy men and make sure that the vehicles are running in good order. Tell me today, I'm telling you, I had to stop one day. I asked a military checkpoint. I asked them, I said, if something is happening like 5 kilometers away, how do you get to know? They said, no, the people will run and come and tell them. I mean, does it make sense? Oh, how about you? The people are not able to run to come and tell you. No means of you going to help your security colleagues when there's an attack.
So even things as basic as radio equipment, is absent.
It's absent.
Have we been able to investigate fully and thoroughly when these incidences occur? Because, I mean, Greenfield University is the latest in a long list of schools that have experienced kidnapping. Have we been able to investigate thoroughly, incidents of kidnap and how it is? I mean, there's situations whereby the schools are far away from security agencies or where security agencies are resident. but where they are, say in the city, or where they are situated really, really close to security agents, residents of abode, like we also had in Africa, for instance, have we been able to investigate to really find out what the problem is, with a view to, say, correcting or protecting the other educational institutions that are still in operation?
Yes, let me put it this way. For me, I keep on telling people that until we reorient ourselves to love this country, there are saboteurs everywhere. There are moles everywhere. And to be honest, I think the bandits have infiltrated the people and even the government. Why is it that an attack is taking place, somebody wants to be kidnapped, and the bandit will tell the person that has been kidnapped that you sold your house yesterday? We are aware, we were told. So it means that they have moles within the society. They have moles, I will be honest with you, I feel even within the military. I give an instance, I don't know how true it is, but I'm reliably informed it was true. When the military were to attack, some years back, I think there was this rumors going on that they want to use gas and making sure that they demobilize the bandits. I think 2 days later, we saw on TV the bandits were with face masks. Who told them? Who told them? They are saboteurs within. And I'm sorry, I look at this country and said, oh, who will love my country, Nigeria? With every sincerity. Whose allegiance to Nigeria is 100%. The unfortunate thing is that allegiance of most Nigerians is to their religion, is to their ethnic group, or to themselves. And the allegiance to Nigeria or to the constitution of Nigeria, maybe it's just 10% of people of the entire country. I tell you this with all sense of sincerity. When you ask that, how do we protect the other school students? Do you know that in a village, I don't like to mention name because it might be a security risk to me as well. Because even as I speak here today, I've had situation where I was asked by my village people that please, I should know what to say. Because in the moment I said it, the bandit will get the information and they will be attacked. I'm no longer safe. I can't speak my mind the way I want because my people will be killed. I have relations in the villages. Most of these villages have run away and they know me. If I speak, there same people within the community will take the message back to the bandit and say, this is the man that said army should be brought to come and kill you. Oh, but tell me, am I not in a dilemma? Am I not supposed to speak out? Am I not supposed to say, look, we need so and so. The military need to be on their toes. Look at it this way today.
Honorable, I'll have to interrupt you because I'm sure that even my colleagues will have questions for you and we'll be going to them shortly. I think we have 3 minutes just before the break. Let me come back to you again, Senator. It's a really befuddling situation. I mean, when you think about it, it's mind-boggling. The fact when he talks about the fact that, you know, it was seen that every layer, I mean, you talked about how the state has lost monopoly of violence, of legitimate use of violence, but it would seem that they've also lost loyalty, you know, from citizens. When you now start talking about areas being permeated by moles and people not knowing even who to trust. We had a former general, somebody who served in a very prominent position in this country, telling us that the military is not neutral. You know, and these kinds of statements we're not supposed to take lightly, are we?
The truth of the matter is that the challenge the country is facing, I think, is bigger than the dimension of the narrative. We are facing a largely regional problem that stretches from the whole Sahel, from Atlantic to Nile, the Sahelian region of West Africa. This phenomenon is a West African problem. And it's flowing in from where it started, from all the way Afghanistan to Pakistan to the Middle East, It's not a turn of West Africa.
It is indeed.
Okay?
However, if we were united as a people, if we were sincere, because right now he's made reference to accountability within the military, we're not able to get that. I think we have current governor of River State, speaking on one of our programs, saying that $1 billion was appropriated from the excess crude. I don't even think that money was appropriated. It was much later it was appropriated. It was just taken from the excess crude account to provide for security, and as we speak, we're not able to get any accountability for that money. Or does the Senate now have accountability for the money?
Mope, let me tell you this: what the procurement process for military hardware takes longer than the immediate need of this country. The $1 billion you talked about was to import jets, fighter jets, to deal with this insurrection. Up till now, those jets have not arrived because the process of purchase is very political with a lot of international diplomacy. But when countries are in this type of quagmire, you engage what you call government-to-government negotiations. On the basis of bilateral diplomacy, Nigeria can approach other governments that have capacity to support it by lending a hand, while the international procedure for procurement of crafts, aircraft, and heavy military hardware is allowed to take place. But these are the kind of things that heads around the table provides, because nobody is a repository of knowledge. There is need for more consultation. Nigerians, unless we all unanimously agree that we don't want Nigeria, but for as long as we claim to be Nigerians, want to lead Nigeria, aspire to lead Nigerians, the debate should no longer be about who rules next time, as much as what does the person have to offer? What is the solution to the problem that is besetting us at this point in time? Let me tell you something. This country is very poor. We have this erroneous belief that Nigeria is a rich country. No, not at all. What do I mean? 200 million people, 13 trillion budget, at whatever exchange rate, maybe 25 billion US dollars, compared to Brazil with the same population, 10 times public spending than Nigeria.
So some people will say that's because we have refused to, we are just dwelling with what our current circumstances, and we have refused to, leverage on our potential, because
that is the point I'm making. See, the Nigerian project needs a rework.
Okay.
And the rework of Nigerian project has to be the collective responsibility of everybody, regardless of political party.
Let's take a break at this point. We'll come back shortly to continue this conversation. Please stay with us.
Question of securing this important nation.
Paramount on the minds of every patriotic Nigerian at this time is how the country can be saved from the jaws of insecurity.
Thank you very much for coming.
Being a part of the larger nation, the Anglican Communion through the All Souls Church, Lekki, Lagos, bring together those who can contribute their insights into how insurgency, banditry, herders, farmers crisis, kidnappings and other forms of violent crimes can be contained in the country.
In recent times, there have been calls for national conference and restructuring from almost all quarters of the nation. It is also my belief that we are at that critical junction in our national history when we have to come together and deliberate the way to maintain our unity as one nation. Nigeria as a nation needs proper restructuring and rebuilding for her to arise out of these ashes of despondency.
The keynote speaker, who is the governor of Ekiti State and chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, is confident that Nigeria will come out stronger from the current situation, adding that the solution to the challenges is not unidimensional.
Clearly, military intervention is a very small part of the counter-terrorism strategy and should be used as a narrowly defined tool accompanied by diplomatic, social, and criminal justice models as essential components for comprehensive counterterrorism strategy. So, in being tough on terrorism, it is also important to be tough on the root causes of terrorism and the drivers that fuel violent extremism. Underlying grievances must be addressed, and the need for a Marshall Plan of sorts to assist the people is a necessity.
However, the security consultant among the speakers makes case for urgent actions to be taken so as to save the nation from dire consequences.
The wind is blowing us toward the rocks. Let me assure you, the wind is gale force wind. It's blowing us toward the rocks. So we need to steer harder away from it.
The discussion today is a prelude to the 34th Synod of the Diocese of Lagos. For everyone here, finding lasting solution to the rising security challenges in Nigeria requires concerted efforts by all, with governments at all levels taking the lead. From All Souls Church in Lekki, Lagos, Yomi Otaigbe, Channels Television News.
Well, religious bodies and institutions are not immune any longer from this talk of security. Everyone is putting heads together to find a solution to the problem. We still have with us in the studio Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi and also Honorable Yakubu Barde. We'll now throw this to Lagos for questions from my colleagues. Gentlemen.
Well, yes, indeed, Senator. As a matter of fact, we'd like you to just listen to this particular tape. That was when General Danjuma spoke about it in 2018, which is what Markwa did make reference to. But here is part of what he said at the time.
Every one of us must rise up. The armed forces are not neutral. They collude. They collude. They collude with the armed bandits that kill people, kill Nigerians. They facilitate their movements. They cover them. If you are depending on the armed forces to stop the killings, you will all die one by one.
How do you begin to address that kind of comment coming from that sort of personality in this country, Senator?
Well, you see, the human condition likes comfort and assurances. And when those things are missing, extreme passion begin to play out. And that's what you see in General T.Y. Danjuma. And you don't take that kind of anxiety or concern lightly because he is a product of the military. And by every standard, an informed Nigerian. So he must have a sound basis for saying what he said. Even though provocative and tending to promote further anarchy, we still have to rely on rebuilding the capacity of state to respond to the needs of the people when it comes to security of life and property. There is no alternative. Not everybody can defend themselves. Not everybody can own a gun. Not everybody can afford to buy a gun. What happens to those people? We need to rebuild our nation. We need to rebuild our military. The question of complicity between state actors and non-state actors in the issue of violence is real. We can't deny that. We once had a situation when some foreign governments that tended to support us at the early stages of this problem had to, exit because a lot of their plans were leaked from inside sources. So, for example, where do the bandits get their arms and ammunition from? We need to study the supply chain of these people and find out. This is why we're a government. Okay? Government is expected to have a higher capacity. There are institutional decay, there are problems of capacity of human resources, even within government. We all know that. But nonetheless, the government, stakeholders, and members of the public, the media, must rise to the challenge and help us to navigate the way forward. This is my immediate reaction. We cannot give up on government. We cannot give up on government, but we have to rise up to support government to do what is needful at a time like this.
You know that there's been several commentary about how did we get here. I think part of what you also referenced just now. But there were those who accused some members of your party before the general elections that brought in the government, saying that some of them were actually responsible for bringing in some of these persons because they thought they were not going to win elections. And they thought that up to now, nobody has really addressed that matter. Have you heard that sort of accusation, and what do you think of it?
Well, I've heard all of that. I also read it in the newspapers, but that comes largely from a suboptimal understanding of the dimensions of the problem that we are faced with. I just said on this program not long ago that the problem Nigeria is facing is a sub-regional problem. You go to Mali, you go to Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, and all these Sahelian countries, there's a meltdown, including the northern parts of Ghana, Cameroon. All this is happening outside the immediate borders of Nigeria. And you have the frontier states to these international borders where terror is coming from north downwards, from Kebbi to Sokoto to Zamfara, to Katsina, to Yobe, to Bono, down to Adamawa, up to Mubi area on the Cameroonian border. These are vulnerable border entries to Nigeria where there is infusion of terror and tension by jihadists into this country. And this is being met at home with severe human security problems of poverty, lack of jobs, lack of rain in the Sahel, from the west to the east part of the country, along that belt of the country, average temperature 35 degrees, no capacity to grow because there is no rainfall, no food to sell because there is no production taking place. It has provided a fertile ground for the recruitment of young people who will take pittance in exchange for a gun to go and carry out an operation. This is the issue. The partisan argument is lame, is weak, and is jaded. And that's not what we should be discussing at this point in time. That is not the issue. The issue is all hands must be on deck. What do we gain by partisan scoring of points when we lose Nigeria? The people who wants to use security as a means of electioneering and edging out those in power for them to come back there, what do they govern when there's no Nigeria? When there's war in Zamfara, there's problem in Katsina. In Ogun State, there are displacement. In Oyo, Ekiti, there is killings going on. In the East, everything is happening. In that kind of context, how do you govern, regardless of what party you belong to? I think we should suspend this issue of focus on 2023 and focus on how to salvage this country so that people who have the intellect, the capacity, the vision, and the knowledge with solutions to solve Nigeria and take it out of this problem, that is what we should interrogate. Those are the questions we should be asking, not scoring points.
Okay. Well, let me ask Honorable Bade. I understand, of course, it's something that Senator Adetunbi talked about earlier about the arms purchase, and so many people are asking questions about that, including the hallowed chambers of the House of Representatives. Everyone would recall the House Ad hoc Committee on Arms and Ammunition Control inviting the Chief of Army Staff recently to ask questions about that. And of course, we've heard from Senator Adetunbi the kind of things that perhaps should have been done. But then it's over 2 years now, almost 3 years since the conversation started about $1 billion released one way or another for arms and ammunition. For the House of Representatives to come up with an ad hoc committee to ask those questions. It will suggest that the standing committees on security, Navy, Air Force, and Army are not doing, due diligence in the oversight that they're supposed to be performing. What should be done now, either with the committees or with the military, all arms of the military, in finding out exactly where we are concerning those arms purchases?
Thank you very much. I don't want to say it is an indictment on the various military committees we have in the House. But again, you see, there is no monopoly of wisdom. If the Speaker in his wisdom feel we should have different input from different people, apart from the committees that were assigned the oversight function of the military, I think it's nothing bad about it. That as it may, you agree with me that honestly, I believe there's a lot going on, and it's very sad. And it's in the public purview that I think these monies were not used judiciously. Today, if you go and visit the men that are in the forefront of the war, they'll tell you that they are still using the AK-47, which is now old. There's modern AK-49, which I feel, I'm not an expert, but I think it's more modernized than the AK-47. Now, you ask yourself, have they really been supplied these modern gadgets? You see a military man on the road where he knows that anytime there could be an attack, he doesn't have any vest, a bulletproof vest. How much is a bulletproof vest that somebody will just expose his chest and anytime there's a shot, he's gone, especially if it hits his chest? And the bulletproof vest is meant to protect the vital organs of the body. Let's be very honest. How many of them do you see them with bulletproof vest? Bulletproof vest, as common as it looks, they hardly they don't have. Check some of the guns they use. They still use some of these old guns that are very long. I know I've been seeing these guns for the past 30 years or 40 years. And they're still using those ones. So the question you want to ask, does it mean our military does not know that there are modern gadgets and equipment now? Or is it deliberate? This is where I have questions to ask. Because if the House of Representatives set up that ad hoc committee, I think these are the questions we should ask. Of course, we shouldn't expose to the public the modern weapons we have, because again, that's a security breach. But at least members of the House of Reps can be trusted, and they will be told, not something will come out and say, these are the latest modern gadgets we have. But we need to know that these modern gadgets were bought. But just look at it, as common as the bulletproof vests. Some of our military don't have it. Some of them even go without the helmet. Now,
I don't know, how was the issue resolved eventually? Because that day the pressmen were asked to excuse the committee. Were they able to make progress eventually?
He promised, the Chief of Army Staff promised that he will bring the report. I am not aware whether he has brought it now. But that's what he said, after being very arrogant about it, that he is not the one that was there.
Senator Adetunbi?
Yes,
just permit me to, issue some clarifications. I think largely, again, I'm going to say that government communications can go a long way to change narrative and take us from speculation to facts, so that at least the public know what is going on. Military hardware, he said, as simple as bulletproof vests are. They are not items you just purchase off the shelf. No, let me finish. These are sensitive technologies that the access to them is controlled by the people who produce them and the countries where they come from. So there's a lot of bilateral diplomacy that is required, that gives you access to this kind of
Do
markets.
you think that it is possible for
Yes.
state actors too? I mean, because there are huge questions around how it is that the bandits, the bad people, are getting weapons. And we have to go through very laborious channels to get weapons to fight them in turn. Do you think that we should begin to explore some of the channels they explore as well?
I don't think that will be decent for a government to do, but the truth of the matter is that the local bandits, terrorists, Boko Haram, whatever they are called, they are Nigerian cells of a global network that have its own supply chain of technology, of hardware, of bullets, and resources that comes to them. How do they fund it? Kidnapping, bank robbery, taking illegitimate rent.
That's how they fund it.
That's how they fund it. But the point is that for Nigeria to have access to its own legitimate supply, it needs to up its ante by engaging in government-to-government negotiation.
Indeed.
For example, do you know that it is impossible for you to just walk into a military aircraft producing country and just pay and receive? The government of that country must give a go-ahead, which is a product of the relationship between Nigeria and those countries.
Senator, I hear you, but then, you know, there have been questions in times past, because, you know, what we're also trying to do, I think what Honorable is also trying to say, and I'm sure he can speak for himself, is to marry this with accountability. There have been time past when our armory has not been as secure as we would love to think that it will be. I mean, this is something that is very well documented.
I agree with that.
So, indeed, if there are questions as to how is it that we're spending money, you know, since we're appropriating so much, are we really getting value for money? Whether or not it is, you know, it is easy to get this equipment, what we have in store, is it really going round to serve the people that, you know, need this equipment as and when they should get it?
You see,
aren't these valid questions to
valid
ask?
question. I agree with that question, and my comment simply is this. He has said that there are complaints, allegations of complicity by people in high office, political, economic, and security, that have probably ideological sympathies, maybe religious, maybe ethnic sympathies for the campaign of the terrorists. It is the duty of government. It is the duty of government to find out who these people are, make them culpable. It's a treasonable offense for any military person to be giving information to people who are trying to destroy this country. We should fish them out. But the point I'm telling you is this. Sheep has come to show, and rubber has made the road.
Well, Senator,
how much time in Nigeria is now?
Senator, if you don't mind me butting in for a bit, that issue that you have just raised now, it is the responsibility of government, no doubt, but government has various agencies that are supposed to perform certain functions. For instance, the DSS, you know, released a statement underscoring what so many people have been saying, and there are certain individuals who are trying to foment trouble in the country, some form of disintegration plan. We've heard governors say over and over again that there are certain political elements who are fomenting trouble, you know, supporting this banditry and all of these things that you're talking about. If it is the responsibility of government and all this information is available to government, what then are we waiting for? Are they so powerful, more powerful than the country, that these individuals can't be picked up?
Well, the beauty of democracy is that there's a function of government, there's also a demand side. Okay? To democracy and performance of government. And that's the point I'm making. The time for the demand side and the supply side, which is government, to dialogue, to meet. It's not just elections that government needs people for. Government needs people to put it on its toes so that it can do what it's supposed to do. That is the beauty of democracy. It's a game of checks and balances. Okay? If government ought to do certain things and is not doing it, then people should rise up to the occasion and demand it. The media should demand it.
But Senator, if you can speak pointedly, just 1 second, if you can speak pointedly to this thing, to this particular fact, there are, according to the DSS, and some governors, which I'm pretty sure you are aware of, even the presidency has said this, that there are certain political elements, some politicians who are fueling this insecurity one way or another. In your opinion, what do you think should be done by the authorities to ensure that these individuals are brought to book? Is it so difficult for them to be picked up, for them to be arrested and kept at bay?
My solution to that is whoever has information about people that are working towards the destability of Nigeria should be confident enough to name names. The era of diplomacy is over. If you have concrete accusation against anybody, put a name to it. Okay? Name and shame. And let the law take its course. And let there be a defense. The accuser and the accused must meet and debate it, and let the public judge who is lying. And if there are serious infractions, let the justice process take its course. Let the law enforcement take his position, and let the courts come to life. In America, when Trump was trying all manners of things to personalize the democracy of America, the courts rose, the people rose, civil society rose, media rose up, the institutions rose, the courts, put their foot down. And that's what saved America. It is time for similar institutions, clusters of people and interests in Nigeria to rise to the occasion. Democracy is not served a la carte. It has to be demanded and insisted upon, and people must do what they are supposed to do, make government uncomfortable, demand for results, and name names, and stop these speculations.
Well, I know that this conversation is one that is going to continue. It's very difficult to get you, to the studio, Senator Nitumbi, but, just before we go, let me quickly take the closing words of Honorable Badi.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, patriotism is what is needed. There is moral decay, moral corruption, there is nationality corruption, there is religious corruption, and there is financial corruption. I will tell you, in my sojourn as a politician, I've come to realize that most people, including the civil service, including the military, everybody is after what he will get for himself and his family. This is my take. I am saying it authoritatively because I've had in different fora when politicians will go out, what they ask is what they will get. They will ask what is for us, not what is for the country. And as long as everybody wants to continue to milk the country, then one day the cow will die and we will all suffer for it. And this is what is happening today. Why is it that unemployment reaches very high? Most of us politicians, we give it to our cronies. So anybody who has nobody will not get a job. It's not supposed to be like that. It's abnormal. Why is it that every lucrative position, go to the lucrative NNPC today, their employment is not open. They will tell you it's open. But I assure you, not every ordinary Nigerian can get employment in NNPC. Why is it so? So for me, there is need for reorientation, and we must find true Nigerians, patriots that will love this country, not love for themselves or their religion or their region or their ethnic tribe. Because why do we advocate all this rotational presidency? It's because the people that are there are not fair. As far as I'm concerned, if the man from the east, who is called Okechukwu, is the president of Nigeria and he's doing well, I don't care. Let him remain there as long as he wants. You've been Babangida because you are from the north.
Or perhaps as long as the constitution
yes, as long as the constitution allows him. If you are Babangida and I'm being killed every day, and you come and tell me, oh, he's my brother from the north, or we are the same religion, I don't care. That is rubbish. But unfortunately, the elite has worked on the brain of the poor. I keep on asking the poor today, I said, if there's a religious crisis, the GRAs are not affected. Why is it that it's the slums that are affected? Yes, because the poor man has been deceived that religion is what he should pay allegiance to. But the big men will sit in their GRA, you don't see any fighting going on. They are doing the same businesses. Dangote today has Christians and Muslims and everybody within the company.
Honorable, this conversation is definitely one that will keep going on. I mean, until we find a solution, Senator Adetunbi has said we should find, what did he say now? I'm trying to find the right words that he used now. But you have said that we need to find patriots. We need to demand accountability, that democracy will not be served a la carte. On this note, I have to say, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Senator, we're hoping that when we call on you, it will not be so difficult to get you.
No, I'm at your service, I promise. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Senator Olubunmi Adetunbi is the chairman, Senate Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs, and Honorable Yakubu Barde is former minority whip of the House of Representatives. Well, we have a few tweets. Time is almost run out. Let's see if we can quickly run through them. Terese Michael Ahua says, how is it that the intertribal, interregional, and even interreligious marriages between a lot of Nigerian families since the Civil War has not helped curtail the clannish approach to our national project? These are huge questions to ask.
Well, this one is also talking about insecurity. Adewale Deborah says there are needs for manpower with able minds. Military should lift age limits on recruitments and select candidates based on mental and physical fitness. And this next one is talking about minimum wage. Teleradia Brain says, it's indeed sad that we are talking about minimum wage, which is barely 62 naira, 62.5 per month. Yet our state governments find this demeaning wage, which cannot even sustain a family of two, difficult to pay.
Well, that's all we'll have to leave it. I also see tweets on World Press Freedom Day. Thank you so much for sending your best wishes to journalists, and I think that's to everybody as well, because when the press is free, we are all indeed free. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation this morning. I'm Mark Welgun Yusuf.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain, so we'll see you next time.